Roman soldiers were not born as legionaries. They were made. Before a man could stand in the battle line of a Roman legion, he had to survive one of the harshest military training systems of the ancient world. The Roman army did not rely on bravery alone. It relied on discipline, endurance, and relentless training. Weak men did not last long. From the moment a recruit entered the camp, his life changed completely. The Roman army transformed civilians into professional soldiers through a system of constant drills, marches, and combat exercises. Young men who wished to join the legion were first examined by military officers. They had to be physically fit, strong, and capable of enduring long marches and hard labor. Only those who met the requirements were accepted into the ranks. New recruits then took a military oath known as the sacramentum. With this oath, they swore absolute loyalty to Rome and obedience to their commanders. Breaking this oath was considered a serious crime. After this moment, the recruit was no longer simply a citizen. He was now part of the Roman military machine. Training began immediately. Roman instructors believed that soldiers must practice harder than they would ever fight in battle. Because of this, training weapons were often heavier than real ones. Recruits drilled with wooden swords and shields that could weigh twice as much as the equipment used in combat. The purpose was simple. If a soldier trained with heavier weapons, the real ones would feel lighter and faster in battle. But weapons training was only the beginning. To survive as a legionary, a recruit needed strength, endurance, discipline, and the ability to march enormous distances alongside his fellow soldiers. Physical endurance was one of the most important qualities of a Roman soldier. Roman recruits spent countless hours strengthening their bodies through marching, running, and carrying heavy loads. Marching was a central part of military training. Roman soldiers were expected to march long distances while carrying their equipment. A standard military march could cover around 20 Roman miles in a single day, which is roughly 30 kilometers. During these marches, soldiers carried armor, weapons, tools, food supplies, and personal equipment. The total weight of this equipment could reach 30 kilograms or more. Because of this burden, Roman legionaries were sometimes jokingly called Marius's mules, a reference to the military reforms of the Roman general Gaius Marius. These marches were not casual walks. Soldiers were required to maintain formation and speed while carrying their heavy loads. Any soldier who fell behind could be punished. Training also included running, jumping, swimming, and climbing exercises designed to prepare soldiers for difficult terrain and battlefield conditions. Roman commanders understood that armies often lost battles not because of weapons, but because of exhaustion. A legion that could march farther and faster than its enemy often gained the advantage before the battle even began. But endurance alone was not enough. Roman soldiers also needed to master the deadly skills of close combat. Combat training was one of the most important elements of Roman military preparation. Recruits practiced fighting techniques repeatedly until their movements became instinctive. A common training method involved a wooden post known as the palus. This post represented an imaginary opponent. Soldiers practiced attacking and defending against it with their swords and shields. Instructors closely watched these exercises, correcting mistakes and forcing recruits to repeat movements until they were performed correctly. Roman soldiers were taught to fight in a disciplined and controlled manner. Instead of wild swings with the sword, legionaries were trained to thrust with the gladius. A quick stabbing attack delivered from behind the protection of the shield was both faster and more deadly than a wide slash. This technique allowed Roman soldiers to remain protected while still delivering lethal blows. Training weapons were often heavier than the real equipment used in battle. Wooden swords and shields could weigh nearly twice as much as their real counterparts. This forced recruits to build strength and endurance during practice. By the time soldiers used real weapons, they felt lighter and easier to control. Training also included the use of the pilum, the heavy javelin carried by legionaries. Recruits practiced throwing these weapons with precision and timing. The goal was to strike enemy shields and armor just before the lines collided. A well-thrown pilum could disrupt enemy formations and weaken their defense. But Roman soldiers did not train only as individuals. They also trained as a formation. Groups of soldiers drilled together, learning how to move, advance, and fight as a coordinated unit. They practiced maintaining tight lines of shields while advancing step by step toward the enemy. Commands were shouted by officers and repeated through the ranks so that entire units could move together. The strength of the Roman legion did not come from individual warriors. It came from soldiers fighting as one disciplined machine, where every man understood his place in the line and trusted the soldiers beside him. Training in the Roman army did not end after the first weeks of instruction. Even experienced legionaries continued to train throughout their entire military career. Daily drills maintained discipline and ensured that soldiers remained prepared for combat at all times. Centurions, the backbone of the Roman command structure, enforced these standards with strict authority. They inspected weapons, supervised exercises, and punished soldiers who failed to meet expectations. Centurions were often veteran soldiers with many years of experience in battle. Their authority in the camp was absolute, and their primary task was to maintain discipline among the ranks. This constant discipline created a culture where soldiers were expected to perform their duties without hesitation. Roman military training also included practical skills beyond fighting. Soldiers learned to build fortified camps, construct roads, and dig defensive trenches. Engineering and construction were essential abilities for an army that often operated far from major cities. Because of this training, Roman legions were capable of building fortified camps in a single day and preparing defensive positions whenever necessary. Veteran soldiers also played an important role by teaching younger recruits the realities of military life and combat. By the time a recruit completed his training, he was no longer the same man who had entered the camp. He had been transformed into a professional soldier, strong, disciplined, and trained to fight as part of one of the most effective military systems in the ancient world. This relentless training was one of the key reasons why Roman legions dominated the battlefields of the ancient world for centuries. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and a comment. Subscribe for more true stories from history. Your support helps this channel grow.